Hey, good evening, everyone. John Henry Soto here, coming to you live with George Batista, and welcome to the Counterparts show. We are very excited to have you here with us again, one more time. As always, we really appreciate you guys taking the time to join us here week after week. We've been doing this for a few years. We've had some incredible guests on, and we've had some great conversations as well, and some great interaction with you. So we really appreciate you taking the time to spend with us, because we know that there's a lot of things you can be doing other than hanging out with these two schmoes. So we really appreciate it. So having that said, that we are going to be talking today about the SAG-AFTRA strike. We're going to be talking about, of course, the Writers Guild strike as well, and just in general what's happening, and give you some information and show some videos, and just to kind of show what you can actually do, even if you're not in the industry, but just to get in the know, and also how you can help the industry, because this is a really important time in the entertainment industry. Probably the most important time in the history of entertainment is happening right now as we speak. So please hang on tight, and we'll be right back. All right, welcome back. Thank you very much for joining us again. And we have a lot to talk about, so I'm going to actually turn it over to George Batista, who's going to do our sponsor and give some love to our wonderful sponsor here. So thank you very much, George. Take it away.
Thank you, sir. And by the way, nobody wants to watch me on Instagram. They only want to see you, because you are the star. You are Beretta.
Be right. You might be. I am the Beretta of television.
Exactly.
Anyway, you can't do the time. Go ahead.
All right. So the Counterpart Show is brought to you by Wellness Resources, a family-owned and operated nutritional supplement company providing the highest quality, clinically formulated supplements since 1985. Find out why they are the top choice of not only myself, but health-conscious individuals around the world. Check them out at myvitaminresource.com for some amazing supplements. If you enter the promo code Counterparts, you will get free shipping on your order. And on top of that, you will also take advantage of their monthly specials. And this month's special is 20 to 30% off on all their supplements. That's right, all of their supplements. So check it out. So again, amazing supplements. I use them every single day, and you should too. So Wellness Resources at myvitaminresource.com.
All right. So SAG-AFTRA is on strike. Why is this important to the world? Well, it actually is, believe it or not. And we're going to talk a lot about that today. One of the leaders, obviously, is the Fran Drescher, who's the president of the union. And she had a lot to say. It kind of went viral, her speech, when it was everywhere. And I'm going to play some of it today so we can go over some of the things she's talking about, because you know, when people see performers on television, you know, and suddenly they think you're famous, so you must be rich, not realizing that 95 to 97% of all SAG performers are working actors. They have salaries just like everyone else, you know. And there's this there's this misconception. I mean, there's only the top earners are the 1%, right, of SAG. I mean, they're the ones that you see on the big movies and the big blockbuster hits and stuff like that. And you know, then there's the performers that get what's called a day rate, you know, where you either, if you're a background, you know, they're professional background people. They are literally there. I know actors in New York that have a police uniform, a fire uniform, an EMT uniform, and they have all the standard ones in their closets, folded and clean.
And they're not part of the Village People.
No, they're not. Well, they might be, but not, depending on what the scene is. But they actually get called all the time. They need a cop, all the cop shows, they come in, they have their uniforms, and you'll see them a lot, the same cops. If you're paying attention and you're a fan of Law and Order, you can see a lot of the similar guys, and they're professionals, they're professional background performers. So when you look at like the industry as a whole, the industry is $1 billion industry, $1 billion. In the old days, we'd talk about $1 million. You get, wow, $1 million industry. It's $1 billion industry, and yet there are performers that are, if they can't even get a living wage, and they've been in top television shows, top TV shows. And we're going to go a little bit into how that works and money wise as well. But I want to kind of play a little bit of the Fran Drescher interview from the SAG website. And then we'll break it down. I might stop it, if I have a comment on it, but I'm going to play some of it. It's about 6 minutes long, but I'm going to play maybe about 4 minutes, and I'll stop it here and there. If anybody, by the way, if you're on and you have any questions, please drop them into the comment section there. We'd love to interact with you and hear what you have to say on this issue. So let me do this, because I am not too good at things. Do that. Share audio. And I believe this is it. Do you see that, George?
Yes, I do.
Okay, good. And let me know if the sound is good. If it's good, don't say anything if it's good. If it's not good, you tell me. All right, so we're gonna move forward a little bit to about a minute. It's about 6 minutes, so let's go here, because she really does break it down to some of the things.
And so it came with great sadness that we came to this crossroads, but we had no choice. We are the victims here. We are being victimized by a very greedy entity. I am shocked by the way the people that we have been in business with are treating us. I cannot believe it, quite frankly. How far apart we are on so many things. How they plead poverty, that they're losing money left and right when giving hundreds of millions of dollars to their CEOs. It is disgusting. Shame on them. They stand on the wrong side of history at this very moment. We stand in solidarity, in unprecedented unity. Our union and our sister unions and the unions around the world are standing by us, as well as other labor unions. Because at some point, the jig is up. You cannot keep being dwindled and marginalized and disrespected and dishonored. The entire business model has been changed by streaming, digital, AI. This is a moment of history that is a moment of truth. If we don't stand tall right now, we are all going to be in trouble. We are all going to be in jeopardy of being replaced by machines and big business. Who cares more about Wall Street than you and your family? Most of Americans don't have more than $500 in an emergency. This is a very big deal, and it weighed heavy on us. But at some point, you have to say, no, we're not going to take this anymore. You people are crazy. What are you doing? Why are you doing this? Privately, they all say we're the center of the wheel. Everybody else tinkers around our artistry, but actions speak louder than words. And there was nothing there. It was insulting. So we came together in strength and solidarity and unity with the largest strike authorization vote in our union's history. And we made the hard decision that we tell you as we stand before you today, This is major. It's really serious, and it's going to impact every single person that is in labor. We are fortunate enough to be in a country right now that happens to be labor friendly. And yet we were facing opposition that was so labor unfriendly, so tone deaf to what we are saying. You cannot change the business model as much as it has changed and not expect the contract to change too. We're not going to keep doing incremental changes on a contract that no longer honors what is happening right now with this business model that was foisted upon us. What are we doing? Moving around furniture on the Titanic? It's crazy. So the jig is up, AMPTP. We stand tall. You have to wake up and smell the coffee. We are labor, and we stand tall, and we demand respect and to be honored for our contribution. You share the wealth because you cannot exist without us. Thank you.
Wow.
Wow. So, yeah. So she upset. And I don't blame her. I agree with everything she was saying. And one of the things that I think struck me the most was that, and something I didn't even realize really, was that how much the industry has changed in relation to the contracts, because contracts are very, very, the contract that someone signed 20 years ago, doing for anything to do any project or any film is not the contract today. As a matter of fact, all those contracts need to be shredded, and this is part of what they're talking about.
Right.
One of the things that they offered to us, and what was that they said they want to be able to use background actors. You probably heard some of this.
Yep.
They want to use background actors. They want to record their likeness to store it for AI use later, indefinitely for eternity, and not pay them for the one-day shoot, and then that's it. Which is like, I don't even know how they have the cojones to actually come to the table with that. It's so unbelievably ridiculous.
Yes.
And that to me it really just tells you how far off. And she's right. The president, the CEOs and the presidents of these companies make $100 million a year. Like, their salary is that. You know what I mean? I mean, think about that. These are people who create nothing. They are part of a system of managers that get, pushed around and moved around to different organizations. They spend a little time here, a little time there. They move them to this, they move around. They probably do that for, who knows why they do that, for tax purposes or whatever. But they are incredibly rich, and they would be nothing. They would be nothing without talent, without people that are actually putting the work together, and this is where we have the power, and one of the things that I think a lot of people don't understand, and this may be more than just this conversation, is probably in general, is how much power the individual has.
Mm-hmm.
We're made to believe that we have no power, that our vote doesn't count, or that if we vote and somebody wins, we got to just take it. They don't realize the power that we have as a group, not just in the unions, but just as a human, as a species,
Right.
there are evil people that are trying to control the narrative in pretty much every industry. George is in the health industry. He can tell you what the evil ones are actually trying to do in the health industry. So it's across the boards, and now the entertainment industry is one that, that really, for probably, I don't even know how long, has been sinking, because somewhere along the line, something was missed with the streaming services and with the AI technology. Now, we all know very well that Hollywood is very, very connected to Silicon Valley, and they get together in conversations, and who knows how long they've been planning to do this. And my suspicion is that their plan is to take all the writers out of the picture, because now we have AI writing everything, and take all the actors' faces, as many as faces that they can actually sucker into giving and signing away their likeness, and using them to create projects. And someone actually I was talking to today made a point saying that he bets, and I probably agree, that if this continues, there'll be people paying tickets to go see a famous actor who does not actually exist in real life. He was completely AI generated. And we're going to be having conversations about, did you see that film? Oh, is that a real life film? Is that real people, or is that fake? And people are going to always want the real people in the big scheme of things, because that's where you get humanity. And that's the one thing that AI, no matter how good that algorithm is and how good that technology is, will never have a human soul. It will never have a human soul. And I've read articles that AI have written, and the articles are bland. They're bland. They're not, especially the articles that try to be creative. If you have an article, like someone says, write an article about the Titanic sinking. It's going to give you all the facts and data, and you can use that, and that's fine. Nobody cares about that. But write a love story about two people that met on the subway. Let me see what you put on that. It's going to be extremely boring, and it's going to suck. And that's where it is right now. Because where do they grab all their resources from? It's from the internet. They just grabs everything and piles it into one piece of I'm not going to say it, but one piece of doo-doo, So that's my one of my spiels. Go ahead, George. Sorry.
I know there's so many different ways I can go. Talking about the AI piece first, and I agree with you. That was, of all of them, that is the most ridiculous one that I could not believe. Okay. But it's again, AI is there. AI is affecting every industry, right? I mean, we know that. Okay. We've talked about simple thing as analytics in baseball. We talked about how baseball's being played analytically, right? It takes the heart out of baseball, takes the will out of baseball. If somebody's on a streak, doesn't matter. Okay. If somebody had a bad night that night, doesn't matter. If somebody has, it doesn't take any of that into account. It's all about stats and analytics.
And that's where the human spirit comes out. And when you really look at it side by side, the teams don't win more.
Exactly.
They're not winning anymore.
They and analytics are, in baseball is more of an average over 162 games in a season. But once you get into, the playoffs, it all goes out the window, because it's not designed for that short of a piece of of games. Anyway,
no data. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. But you're right. Analytics is, and I agree with that. Also, that statement that people are gonna pay to see AI generated. I mean, you look at movies like the last Avatar, which was a lot of AI stuff in there. There was tons of it in there, right? So you're going to see that more. Now, a couple of things.
Let's make sure we're not confusing AI with CGI.
CGI. No, I know that. I understand that. But what I'm saying is that my point is that you're going to see that type of thing, with no actor,
humans,
no actor, no
involved.
Human. Okay?
Right.
Now, a couple of things. First of all, as far as the strike itself, it is a broader issue. It raises the broader issue. It raises the broader question. You can extrapolate this strike into any industry, right? Because it's really a broader question. Okay. And then she's right. All the unions have to deal with this type of stuff.
Right.
I never saw the impact of actors. And I know, you're an actor, but I never really grasped the concept as a layperson who just watches movies of the 97, 98%. Never grasped that. Okay. Because, and I don't know why, I consider myself a smart guy. I never really thought that the majority of the actors are out there are just either living paycheck to paycheck or just making a basic living. I didn't even know you had to get to $26,000 in order to get health insurance.
That's right.
When it comes to that. Okay. So, that in and of itself blows me away.
Yeah.
I'm like, holy cow, all these people who depend on this paycheck, and depend on, going from gig to gig and stuff like that, and the space between the gigs and getting the residuals between the gigs, who are not getting that anymore, or getting very little anymore. It blows me away.
Yeah.
And I completely agree. The industry has changed. You as these companies, these studios have to make concessions in that, because it's changing. People's viewing habits have changed. The society has changed as a whole. You have to make those concessions. I mean, Bob Iger, he makes $78,000 a day per day.
Per day. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, if Disney falls tomorrow, he's fine.
Not worried.
He's not worried. His kids are fine. He's gonna be completely fine.
Yeah.
But it's just a very interesting thing that this has come out. But again, it is a broader question that you can really go into all these different industries.
Yeah, and I think when you're saying about the business model changing, the business model started changing a long time ago, and I don't know if the unions maybe missed it, by negotiating the contracts earlier, or they were negotiating them and they just didn't realize that AI. Because remember, up to about 5 years ago, there was Netflix, right? There was a little bit of Hulu, but not original. And Amazon was talking about doing some Amazon originals, right?
Right.
And then suddenly something happened. And this is where I become suspicious of the tech companies and these conglomerates, because suddenly we had Disney Plus, Discovery Plus, Paramount Plus. All the pluses suddenly just came in. Why? Because they knew streaming was going to be a big thing. And if I shot something and it was on CBS, I got paid for the CBS thing. They don't have to pay me again every time it airs on streaming.
Correct.
Because of the contract, right? And that's where the fight is. That's where we're getting hit hard.
Right.
Hit hard.
A lot of us, including myself, actually, saw streaming coming. And the only reason is because I paid very close attention 10 years ago. I paid very close attention to this type of stuff. And part of it is because I also wanted to save money on cable. but looking for different ways and that type
of Roku thing. And
yeah, right. Now here's the interesting thing. And I think this is something that to look at both sides. And I want to look at the industry as a whole as well, because I have followed the industry as far as cord cutting and streaming and stuff like that for many, many years. I follow these guys, Cord Cutters News, and all these guys that are really, really big in that industry, and they talk about the trends. And I have been, like I said, I've been following them for years, right? So when we look at TV itself and how it's changed, right? We had, let's say you and I grew up with the antenna, we grew up with the regular channels, right? Cable comes along, completely changes everything, right? So now we have cable, we have a million channels, all that type of stuff. Now, here's part of the issue, okay? So cable rates go up. Cable rates skyrocket now, okay? And there wasn't that much competition, then they all start coming in, blah, 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 that type of thing. But you're talking about paying $200-$300 sometimes a month for these cables. Now internet comes in. Now we've got this streaming thing, okay? Here's where one thing that happened, that there was a gamble that was kind of lost on that side. There's the live TV component, and then there's the streaming actual on-demand component. So they started to take the live streaming component of cable and put it online. This is where you start to get what's today like YouTube TV, and back then it was PlayStation View, it was Sling. Sling was literally the first one. Sling and PlayStation View were the first two that came out that were actually had any kind of success. All they did was take the cable package and put it online. So now you were watching regular live TV with sports and all that online. And that package now was cut in half, because instead of paying $200, you were paying $50.
Right.
Okay. Now That started, all right. Now, a lot of these studios started to put a lot of their money into this because this is where everything was going. This was going to kill cable.
Right.
The problem is, okay, and more of these companies came out. The problem is this: the young folks today, the 15 to 20-year-olds, my daughter 16, that generation, they're not going to watch live TV. They've never grown up with live TV.
No.
So what ended up happening, and the numbers are showing this, that they skipped from cable, went over the live TV online, and went straight to on demand.
Right.
Okay. So now it's easy. My daughter doesn't watch commercials at all. She hasn't watched commercials in years. Why? Because she can go on Netflix, she can go on Hulu, she can go on Disney Plus, she can go on all these things. Don't have to worry about commercials.
Right.
She can binge watch a show forever. Okay. So now those streaming companies are losing money. They're actually down. Even through the pandemic, they're down.
Yeah.
So that industry has changed. It's like, and she's correct. Streaming has changed the game because of the on-demand system.
Right.
Now you don't have to be paid for the on-demand. The young kids are now that's all they're watching. And matter of fact, if we take a look at, there's 123 million households in America. 58% of those households pay for TV. Just pay. I mean, the rest is all on demand.
Yeah.
So again, the industry has changed, but again, going back to these guys, they should be, at least even in good faith, negotiating based off of that and seeing that trend and saying, okay, let's, not making stupid comments like let's wait till they lose their mortgages and lose their houses before they come back to us.
Right.
So that's just my spiel on that.
Yeah, and that's like, but it just goes to show the arrogance of the people with the money, but no talent, and this is kind of like a life lesson, right? It's like the guy, the bully that's frustrated and has and always was picked and turns out to be a rich guy, but he's always miserable, so he wants to make everybody else miserable. Right. And this is kind of like how I see the studios. I just think they're bullies, and they think that you cannot survive without them. Now, here's the thing: if you're an actor and let's say you make your $26,000 and qualify for health insurance, and you're making $35,000. Well, $35,000, that's not a living wage. You can't live off of $35,000. You know what I mean? It's like if you're making $40,000, you're barely just, depending on where you live. If you live in the Midwest, or if you live in a small town, maybe. But if you live in New York, you're poor. You're poor. So, and where's the acting jobs?
California, New York.
Yeah. Yeah. So it really, really is outrageous. And because the business model has changed to such a degree, those contracts that are still active with some actors need to be completely trashed. And this is where they don't want to do. They rejected so many things, and I have a copy of all that stuff if anybody's interested in it. It's kind of like, very wordy. It's like 8 pages or something, but they rejected so many things that it was unbelievable. It was just that rejected. So they know that the power lies within the performers and the creators. They 100% know that, but they can't let them know that.
Of course.
So they have to upset them. They have to try to squeeze them. And then what's going to happen is, and this is, I think, what's coming down the line is what happened with the music industry. If we all remember correctly, there was 5 major music companies, right? Major recording studios, record companies. There was 5 major ones, right? The streaming stuff came up, right, with Napster and LimeWire, and then eventually iTunes and all that. And suddenly then there were 3, right? Mm-hmm. And what was popping up during those times? Smaller record labels that were doing it on their own. And bands like Creed were the first record that this small, tiny little indie label put out. They blew up suddenly. Now they're power.
Yep.
Now they have the power. So now the record companies had to figure out what to do, and all they could really do was try to control the actual platforms and try to get the money from the platforms themselves. So it's exactly what, I don't know if you saw Snoop Dogg earlier today or maybe yesterday, but he was talking about the streaming, and Snoop Dogg is hilarious. I'm trying to find the clip. Let me see if I find it here real quick. But he totally had it on point, where he was saying like one of the major issues is not so much hold on one second. It's not so much that there's no way to pay the actors, is that they don't want to give up anything. You know what I mean? They literally want to control everything.
Right.
And that really is where the crime is. They want to control everything, and they know, just like the record industry. And this is a huge turning point in the industry right now. I mean, this is a major, people don't realize that the entertainment industry is not just the actors that are out there playing house. You know what I mean? It's the camera crew, it's the craft services, it's the person that cooks the food, the guy who comes in and cleans the floors, and the guys who set up the sound guys, the everything. There's there's millions and millions of people that are affected by this. People that work around the studios, the restaurants that work around the studios that feed the actors, when they get off of set, the gymnasium that the actors go to work out, all this stuff is a huge impact on the overall system. And I want to just play something from Snoop Dogg where he talks about, so there's a lot of cursing in this, everyone. So if you're sensitive to that, just go like this for like a minute, I guess. I don't know what to tell you. People curse. All right. So let's see here. Let me know if you see this. Can you see it?
Yes.
All right. So let me see if you can hear this.
Get that shit together. Because I don't understand how the fuck you get paid off of that shit. Like, I mean, can somebody explain to me how you can get 1 billion streams and not get $1 million?
All your favorite things that you've been watching for years. And those actors that you go, oh, there's that guy on that show. You may not necessarily know their names. You may see me on the show. You may not know my name, but you've seen me on a lot of things. Those actors are working.
All right. So let me go back a little bit.
All your
streaming.
Because I want to watch the whole thing. So here it is.
Because I don't understand how the fuck you get paid off of that shit. Like, I mean, can somebody explain to me how you can get 1 billion streams and not get $1 million? Like, that shit don't make sense to me. Like, I don't know who the fuck running the streaming industry, if you in here or not. But nigga, you need to give us some information on how the fuck to track this money down. Because 1 + 1 ain't adding up to 2. That shit don't add up. And I have to say it. Because that's the main gripe with a lot of us artists, is that we do major numbers with streams and this shit, but it don't add up to the money. Like, what the fuck is the money? When I first came out, my records would sell based off of physical. If you sold 1 million copies, that means if $9.99, $9 million, you get this percentage, that's what it is. So if I sell how many streams, how much money do I get? It's not being translated and it's not working for the artist right now. And I just want to speak to that. In the music industry, like, that's fucked up. And we need to find a way to figure that out. The same way the writers are figuring out, the writers are striking because streaming, they can't get paid. Because when it's on the platform, it's not like in the box office. In the box office, if it does all these numbers, you may get an up. Oh, it did this many, here's another check. But on streaming, you got 300,000 hours that somebody watched your movie. Where the streaming got to.
So,
yeah, I mean, and he's right. He's so right. I mean, explain it to me like I'm a 5-year-old. I want to know exactly how that.
Where does the money go?
Like, where does the money go? Because it was clear. We said it. 30 years ago, it was clear cut. You got a percentage. This is negotiated. It was exactly.
We knew that because we were selling CDs. If I sold a CD for $10, you put $10 in your pocket. We split it. We knew how much we got.
Very, very simple. But the point is, and you're right. I think part of the issue, and I think what you said earlier was correct. I think the streaming piece and the internet piece kind of came up on us so quickly that it was missed.
Yes, it was missed.
I think we were all engulfed
It
in
was
it.
missed, or maybe it wasn't missed behind closed doors and they were working on it, because I know these people are very smart as well. But overall, I just see that it was not.
But I think probably a lot, and just speaking as a musician, who would be in that, who would be in that, let's say, category, I would think, holy cow, streaming, this is a whole brand new avenue of people that can hear my music, that can see my movie, right? See my show, whatever the case may be, and get excited by that. But not realizing, wait a minute, there's going to be on the back end, it's going to be a whole different ballgame.
Correct.
And we don't know for sure, but again, I think that there was a lot that was missed.
Yeah. And I think Louis C.K., Louis C.K., the comedian, right? Yep. He had some, I like Louis C.K., he was a funny guy. But he actually took his show, Louis, and he only has it because he owns it. See, that's the thing. That's the thing. You have your own money.
Right.
You shoot your own thing. You keep your thing that you shot. And then if somebody wants to pay you money to watch it, you collect their money. You pay anybody that you need to pay, like as far as like maybe getting some marketing to market the show or to do anything. And then the rest of the money comes directly to you. This is why there's certain things like cryptocurrencies. And that's why like the blockchain scares a lot of people, because it can be a very direct thing. And there's no middleman. See, the evil people, right? This is what the evil ones do. They have to become the middleman because they have no talent and no skill set of their own. So they have to figure out a way how to take the talent and filter it through them in some way. So they'll control now the media, they'll control the record companies, the streaming services for music, the streaming services for films and TV shows. They control all of it. So what ends up happening is that now you have a middle person that you have to pay them. You have to, they get the money. But what's happening is when it's filtering through them, it's going like this with all this money, and it's coming out with a little tiny nothing for the artist. Somewhere in there, that's being taken. Where is that money going? Because it's a lot of money coming in, like billions of dollars.
But you're seeing a shift because there's some actors who are realizing this, and there are some actors who are, you see it in the Kevin Sorbos of the world.
Right.
You're seeing it, those types of people who are starting their own companies, who are making their own films, and they're saying, they're giving the middle finger to the studios and they're saying, no, I'm doing it. They've got enough, they've got enough fans that will follow them and pay to see what they're doing. And that's the trend that's going to be starting. You're going to see.
Correct. Yeah. And there are people right now starting companies, me included, and I have done this in the past before I moved to Nashville, but I have something new coming up, and I have a lot of friends that are involved as well, and are willing to back the project up, because at the end of the day, if you can create something that people like, and you have access to a computer, you don't have to go through, the blockchain is still there. Cryptocurrency was crushed because it was regulated, because the government got involved. So whenever the government puts their foot into anything, they destroy it, because that's how they do it, because they just need control over it, right? So they just have a tendency of destroying things. So that's why that crashed. Remember, crypto was at $9,000, and I bought some, and it went up to $60,000. So I made good. I took my money out when I moved here, and now it's at $20,000, or between 16 and 20. It goes up and forth. So it's still a lot. So if you got in early, you're wealthy beyond. But the blockchain itself is still. If I want to send you money and you have a blockchain account and I have a blockchain account, I'm going to send you direct energy via this blockchain, and it cannot be broken. That chain cannot be broken. Now, when you get it, because there's so many passwords and so much stuff that's behind it, it can't be broken. So when you get it, you can transfer it to either cash, you can transfer it to any kind of other thing, put it in your bank, whatever you want to do with it, but it goes directly, no middleman. Banks don't like that.
Right.
Governments don't like that. So that's what happened there. But imagine if we open up a film studio, right? And people can watch your film online, right? They could either watch your film, if you have a TV show, they can watch it online, and they pay directly to you via a blockchain where no one gets anything except the actual artists, right?
Right.
And now think, let's say you have a theater that's willing to show your film. You know, there's a lot of small theaters.
Mm-hmm.
There's still theaters all across, you know, these big giant multiplex theaters, garbage, where there's like 20 theaters and stuff, you know, and 20 screens, whatever. That's going to go away because they're not going to be able to sustain how much content is coming out. I mean, look at the films that have been coming out recently. They're getting tanked. Think about it. The Sound of Freedom, right?
It's blowing them away.
Right? It's Sound of Freedom. But think, the Sound of Freedom was only in about 2,000 something theaters. The Indiana Jones was in 4,000 theaters. It still beat the Indiana Jones film.
Yeah.
You know, because people are interested in seeing good content, things that move them, things that actually have a reason, a purpose. Now, I'm not saying anything bad about Indiana Jones. It was a fine franchise. It was great. It was his last film. I get it. I have emotional attachment to that because I grew up watching those films. So it had nothing to do with that as a content. My point is that film cost $200 million to make, right? $200 million. The Sound of, I was going to say The Sound of Music. The hills that are long. The Sound of Freedom only took, I don't remember exactly how much, but it was a lot less than that. I think it was 15 million, I want to say. Something like that. So it was a lot lot less, right? So think about that as how the future is going to actually be able to sustain. How are they going to sustain those 4,000 theaters with films that they can't even make because they're going to have to make IA films like really quickly because the actors are not going to come back. And a lot of actors are going to just go out and get regular jobs and do community theater and do things like that. Why is this printer doing that? You know, and do things that they were doing before before this whole thing crashed. All right, sorry, this is my printer is deciding to say words to me. So that's my point.
No, and you're absolutely right. And again, that whole thing of actors now who have to have second jobs. There was a couple of actors who talked about actually when they were on, was it Orange is the New Black and all these other shows that actually had second jobs.
Yes,
regulars. They were on the they were regulars and they had second jobs while they were on the show, which is
she was on 42 episodes of and her paycheck she showed it was like $27 and some change or something.
Unbelievable. And here's the thing about that, because again, you're going to start seeing, I'm predicting, and I'm already seeing, I see it on the health side. You're seeing parallel economies. You're seeing that in the health industry. You're going to see that eventually in the movie industry as more people start to do independent stuff. You're going to see that parallel currencies. You're going to see that across the board. Why? Because people are done with these corporations. People are tired of them. They've the whole premise of having, of giving the power over to these corporations was the assumption that they had your best interest in mind, and that things were going to trickle down from all these CEOs down to, almost like a trickle down economic type of thing.
Right.
Whatever. And it's never been proven to work. That model has not worked.
And it hasn't worked because theoretically it should work, but there's too many, as the trickle comes down, there are too many corrupt idiots.
Well, that's the thing. But now they can come back and say, well, on their side, they can come back and say, well, look, this is the good old US of A. We're in a capitalist society. I can make as much money as I want. Okay. True. Who's to say how much money I should be making?
But on the backs of who?
Right. That's the question.
That's where it lies.
Because at the end of the day, when you're a CEO, whether you're a Bob Iger of Disney or whether you're a CEO of Joe Schmo Company, your company cannot work without the workers.
Correct.
It's not going to work, because otherwise you're a company of one, right? You're a proprietor. If you need workers, then those workers need to be paid fairly. And these actors are saying, listen, we need to be paid fairly. I mean, they're not, I don't think they're asking for anything out of this world.
No. Okay.
But things have to be renegotiated because the technology is moving so fast. It is so fast that, that before you know it, we're in another 10 years, things are going to be completely different than they are now. And you've got, and I agree with them, they've got to stand now in order to actually be able to get a part of any of that.
Yeah, there needs to be a way that you can actually secure your likeness, your voice, you as an individual, your anything that you've done in the past, and that's where the contract has to go. You know, if I shoot something today and in 100 years they need a short Puerto Rican that looks like Beretta, they can just and just generate me on the screen there. Well, no, you're not going to do that.
Right.
You know, you're not going to do that. You know, and that right there is where it lies. And you know, Mark Ruffalo, I don't know if you saw that, but he also tweeted out or something about how we need to start paying more attention to the independent companies, independent films.
Yes.
You know, that's really where a lot of good work happens anyway. You know, and we can still do that, you know, if you're a SAG or non-SAG, you know, non-union, whatever union, you know, you can still get together with friends and shoot something and keep your craft going. Keep working on your craft. Don't give up on that. You know, keep working on it and keep creating, because that's what they want to do. They want to starve you from the creation, because that's where artists live. They live to create. You know, and if you're not creating, and then they're saying, well, you can't create now because you can, you know, you're it's against the union or something. Well, that's not really the case. You can always create. I have a pencil, I have a paper. I can write a script today. I can start writing a script today. I can go call some of my actor friends and say, hey, you guys want to shoot a little small independent, you know, film, and we hold on to it, and then later on, if it can be released, we release it. If not, we release it online. You know, but the content and the create still has to be there, and you have to, as an artist, you have to still create. What I wanted to go ahead, you had another point?
No, good.
No, I was going to say that what someone can do to help someone who's not in the industry, you know, what you can do is you can really look, first of all, you can follow and share the content from the SAG website. You know, I shared it a little while ago. Let me see if I can get it, punch it up real quick here. It's just SAG-AFTRA.org. But I think it's very important that we're able to not only, how do I do this? Oh yeah. So not only be able to support them, you know, emotionally and spiritually, you know, but really also support them by taking some action. And the action would be, you know, you can go right here to SAG-AFTRA.org and share the content, you know, let people know what's happening and find out what's going on, you know, because it doesn't really just affect the entertainment industry. It affects a lot of families out there. And these big corporations don't really give a crap, because like you said, $70,000 a day is not going to make anyone care about Joe Schmo who has to feed a family of 4, and he works in the studio, and what he does is he does the breakdowns at the end of a set. You know, he's part of the union, you know, he's labor, you know, and those are the guys that are really going to be affected tremendously by this. That guy don't care. You know, these guys, you know, and they're established actors, which I'm surprised that there isn't more very, very well-established actors coming forward. And maybe they are, and I've just been missing it. But I would love to see A-listers on that picket line as well, you know, and talking about it and saying this is an outrage and we need to do something about it. Because when you take away the A-listers, you know, you take away a lot of money, and that's where you hurt these guys. You hurt them by hitting them where it hurts, which is that $70,000 a day that dude is making. Well, have him live on $5,000 a day, you know, which still would be amazing for most people, right? But it'll hurt him because he's probably got yachts and whatever going on, you know. So that's really what you can do to help. You can just stay informed, stay connected to what's happening, and ask questions, you know, like how else you can help. And there's a lot of things that you can actually get information-wise on the SAG-AFTRA.org site. You can get a lot of information on there. So please do that and get involved.
Very well said. You know, it's interesting, and one of the things that just going back to the streaming model thing. One of the things that my wife and I always talked about, because my wife watches a lot, some of these shows and that type of thing. She watches more shows than I do. She always asks me, why is it that there's these Netflix shows and Hulu shows only have 8 episodes, 9 episodes, 10 episodes? And I never really had an answer because I didn't know,
Right.
Of course, I also didn't know the writers' piece to it. I didn't know you, John, there's more of the stuff than I do that when you look at shows like Seinfeld, when you look at shows like, all those older shows and stuff, that writers were in there constantly writing, for
Larry
20,
David
22
and other writers,
like 22 and 25 shows. They were in there, and then in between shows, they would get all that residual money till they got their next gig.
Yeah, and then there was syndication and
exactly. Whereas now, a lot of these shows are written ahead of time.
They're all written. They're
right,
shot and written.
They're shot way in advance, but written. Like the writers come in and they do their piece, and then they're done.
Yeah.
Right.
So Michelle Hurd actually was talking about it. She's from Picard. She played Riz. What's her name?
Rizzo.
Rizzo. No.
No, she plays Rafi.
Rafi. So she played Rizzo.
Rizzo.
Who was Rizzo? She was.
With John Travolta.
That's right. Yeah, that's what she did. I can't remember the song she sang, but it was a great singer. So anyway, she was talking about how, first of all, she was talking about how someone, the studios came up with the language of, top of show, right? Mm-hmm. Where it's like an artist that gets the top billing for the show, and it's like a guest star, right? They get between $5,000 to $8,000, which sounds great per episode. Wow, $5,000. If you do like 4 of those a year, you still don't qualify for health insurance.
That's right.
You're poor.
That's right.
You're poor, and that's, people are seeing you on TV all the time. You're like, hey, I saw you again on that show. You're doing fantastic. Hey, you're doing great. Hey, that's awesome that you're doing that. You know what I mean? And you're like, thanks, man. It's really fantastic. Your stomach is growing because you got to eat, so that's another thing that people don't, that really affects the day rate, because they created their own language to call something, and that really is not fair to someone that has been consistently working on other things. Right. They should have like you don't want to say a rating system, because that's like goes against things, but you want to be able to say, I just did 4 shows. I'm not doing it for 5,000. I want to get 25,000 per episode if I'm doing this, and negotiate that way, But again, these criminals, I'll call them criminals, and Hollywood is not, people are like, oh, you're gonna get blacklisted. What am I gonna get blacklisted from? You know what I mean? I make my own little films. I show them. I just went to New York. I had a film premiere in New York. It was fantastic. I have another one coming up here in August. I might be at the Seattle one film festival, and I get work from that, shooting other videos and helping in other areas and stuff. I got cast in one thing that I shot, where I played a banker in 18 something, and for me, it's like, what are you blacklisting? You know what I mean? I'm still doing those things. I still have my camera, and I still have actors, and I'm still gonna write. So I don't really care about that, and I don't think that they don't care either, by the way.
Right.
They don't really care that I'm saying this, because $78,000 a day could make anybody not care about this little Puerto Rican guy who's just upset or trying to be creative, Of
course.
But at the end of the day, they cannot survive without the writers, and they cannot survive without the performers. They think that they can.
Yeah.
They think that they're going to do both. They're going to have all the actors, and then on the side, they're going to have a team of robots creating shows that they're going to pump out that are going to be horrible, but because they have marketing money to throw behind garbage, which is what happens, and it doesn't work. It doesn't work. You can look at the films that had how much behind The Flash, how much money was behind The Flash, how much money was the Buzz Lightyear thing, right? They have all these films that they have all this money behind. The Indiana Jones didn't help it. They tanked. And they tanked. Why? Because the industry just had bad intentions.
Right.
They have bad intentions for the performers, for the ones that are actually bringing those stories to life, and the storytellers. And that's where it gets really tragic.
So let me ask you, John, as an actor, as just an artist in general, what's your prediction of how this ends up?
We all die. No, I think that this is what I predict is going to happen. They are going to continue moving forward with AI nonsense, but they're going to lose. First of all, they're going to lose big time to smaller independent studios that are going to write, direct, create, promote their own films, and even have their own theaters that they shoot them. And at the same time, a lot, you have 4,000 theaters. Now, those theaters need to make money too.
Sure.
If you have a film that's doing extremely well in 1,000 theaters, or let's just say even smaller, it sells out on one theater. Every week, people are going to see this film. It's sold out for the last 2 weeks. That other theater across town is going to be like, could we show your film? Sure. Then there's another one over there. Then there's another one. Next thing you know, you get the conglomerate package of it's going to show into 1,000 theaters. Why? Because at the end of the day, they want to make the money. They have staff to pay. They have the lights to keep on. It's a theater to run. They have They have a business model that they're trying to maintain. The big studios don't care. They think that they have that as a control, that they can. Well, we have the distribution. It's the same thing with music. Remember?
Yep.
That was our biggest problem, right?
Yeah.
Our biggest problem was distribution. It had nothing to do with the talent. It had nothing to do with the recording process. All of that stuff we can do for pretty much pennies compared to what it was 15, 20 years earlier before us, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the distribution is what they controlled, right? But now they don't control the distribution anymore because there are organizations and there are companies online that can actually help you with distribution. So that's, I think, one of the things that's going to happen. Another thing is a lot of people like me are going to actually start their own production company, small, and they're going to have their own theater companies. It's going to actually, I think, revitalize, because I like to be optimistic about things, but I think it's going to revitalize art, performers, like actors and writers in a different way, I think it's actually a positive thing. I think I think it's exciting, and I think that the strike is tragic, but I think it had to happen. And remember, it was the largest vote agreement in history of SAG-AFTRA to agree to strike. So that means that pretty much across the boards, everyone said strike. I'm delayed, right?
A little bit, but that's fine.
Yeah.
But I hear you well. But yeah, and you're right. I think at the end of the day, and again, I'm saying this across most industries, it's going to be about being self-sustaining.
Yes.
It's going to be, we need to be self-sustaining. I think we need, as a society in general, whether you're in entertainment, whether you're in medicine, whether you're in whatever it is, okay, I think you need to think in the future to do everything you can to be self-sustaining,
100%.
because everything else is going to collapse. And I don't mean like, as a collapse, like the world's going to collapse, but meaning I think that corporations eventually are going to collapse in and on themselves because they are not self-sustaining.
Right.
We as people, just like you have alternative media, right? Alternative media right now, independent media is exploding right now.
Huge.
It's all over the place. Huge. Just the fact that we can do this is huge. You're going to see this in all the industries because people are done and people want to start their own stuff. And you're going to be able to follow your favorite actor, your favorite musician, your favorite health person, or whatever it is, and just pay them directly and go from there. But that's what it's self-sustaining. That's
what's going to happen. And even more self-sustaining has to come from the platforms that control some of the things. Like, if you stream on YouTube, well, YouTube is owned by Google. Google is part of that big conglomerate thing. So, you need to find other ways to get your thing. And the blockchain is really the way. You and I think you also did it. I don't know if you did. You secured your name.
I did.
Not just .com, because remember, .com is owned Right. We have GoDaddy, right? So GoDaddy controls our domain names. But if your domain name is not controlled, and it's actually a blockchain domain name. So if people go to John Henry Soto, .io, right? It's a completely different experience. You're going to see the same content, but you're going to get a lot more for your money. You're going to get a lot more interaction, and you're going to get a lot more value. And that's what's going to happen across the boards. It's going to happen for the next couple of years. And hopefully this strike and these criminals, and I'll say, I call, I don't think everyone up there is a criminal. I think that there are a lot of people that are misguided.
Yeah.
They're looking at the numbers differently, and I think that they're going to have to deal with whatever comes their way. You make your, you make the leap of faith, right, in what you think is right. In the last 3 years, we've seen people make that leap of faith in what they thought was right. Some of them were right, and some of them were way off and way wrong, and now can't even come back. They can't even backpedal anymore. It's going to be the same thing with the industry here. People are going to be like, "Oh, this is the way." It's the same thing with music, right? It happened to music. I mean, look at these record companies. I remember telling the story of when I went to. I know we're at an hour now. When I went to Sony Music, I remember, if you remember, I was picking up some artwork that they were doing for one of our records and stuff, and I got off on the wrong floor. I got off on the 17th floor. I'll never forget it, because I got off and it was kind of dark. It was light out, so there was light coming through the windows, but it wasn't on, and there was nobody there except one dude, and he's like, it was like a film. It was like literally cinematic, and he's like sweeping, and he looks over at the elevator, and I was like, whoa. I was like, oh, sorry, I'm on the wrong floor. And he's like, oh. And I stopped, and I was like, what's on this floor? Because it was like nothing. And he's like, oh, nothing. This is they just closed it down. There's nothing up here anymore. And he told me there's 5 more floors like that in this building.
Wow.
Why? Because they lost their opportunity, or they didn't see it coming, which I think is what happened a little bit on all sides, And the ones that have the most money are the ones that think they can control the narrative, but they are really and like Fran Drescher said, they are on the wrong side of history at this very moment. And people are going to look back on them and say, you screwed up. And that's why now you don't exist. That's why Paramount and all those big, MGM and Columbia, all those big conglomerate organizations are probably going to be there in their names, but they're going to be completely different. And they're probably going to be, it's probably going to be Paramount, Starbucks, it's going to be like owned by Starbucks, or it's going to be something completely different than from what we actually experience now. Probably a lot more to say on this subject, but I think we've exhausted a lot of what we were trying to say. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. We appreciate you taking the time. As we always say, we are so grateful that you take the time to be with us. So thank you very much for joining us, and we will see you again next week, 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And here's Holden saying hello. It's a friend. We are live on the show now, just so you know. Anyway, all right, folks, thank you very much. I'll see y'all all, and
live TV.
Live TV. Can't beat it. I love it. All right, everybody. Thank you very much. We'll see you all next week, 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, counterpartsshow.com. And for George Batista and Holden and myself, and as always, peace.